Steve Gannon. Steve, let's start with this Finland announcement. To anyone who lived through the Cold War, stunning that Finland would be joining NATO.
Yeah, George, remember that Putin invaded Ukraine with the idea of creating this strategic buffer between NATO and Russia. He has now lost the NATO, or the northern part of that strategic buffer. Just alone, the Finnish border with Russia will double the amount of NATO border with Russia. So on one hand, you would have thought that Putin would have understood that as soon as he crossed into Ukraine, that Finland and Sweden would move towards joining NATO. Or on the other hand, perhaps this is just another of the many strategic miscalculations Mr. Putin has made.
As tensions continue to escalate between Russia and Ukraine, President Putin's decision to go to war with the aim of weakening NATO seems to have backfired. According to NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, Putin's aggressive actions have had the opposite effect, only strengthening the alliance's resolve to stand up to Russian aggression. The situation is certainly complex, with far-reaching implications for the region and beyond. But one thing is clear: Putin's gamble has not paid off. Instead of achieving his desired outcome, he has only succeeded in galvanizing NATO and drawing more attention to Russia's aggressive behavior. In a historic move that is sure to reverberate across the geopolitical landscape, Finland and Sweden have simultaneously applied to join NATO, handing their official letters of application to none other than NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg himself. The decision followed months of intense debate and deliberation within both countries, with broad consensus emerging among policymakers and the public alike that NATO membership is the best way to ensure their national security and protect their sovereignty in an increasingly volatile world. But the decision is not without its risks and challenges. Russia, for one, is sure to view this move as a direct challenge to its influence in the region and could respond with heightened aggression and provocations. And the prospect of two new NATO members on Russia's doorstep is likely to trigger a sharp response from Moscow's allies as well. Still, the fact that Finland and Sweden have taken this bold step is a testament to their commitment to defending their values and interests in a rapidly changing world. And as NATO considers their applications, the world will be watching closely to see how this plays out. What was Finland's journey to join NATO like? Finland and Sweden stayed neutral in terms of wartime affiliations for decades. Finland, a former component of the Russian Empire that collapsed in 1917, was ruled by the Soviet Union during the Cold War under a treaty known as Finlandization. And in exchange for neutrality, the country was given the freedom to create its own domestic policies and economic systems as long as they did not contradict the Soviet Union. According to Lagedek, the USSR had a gun to Finland's head. He explained further and said the policy damaged Finnish public opinion for decades, rendering many people resentful of military partnerships. Everything changed in February 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine. It became very clear very quickly that this was not going to be the quick 3-day Kiev decapitation strike that many people thought it would be. Rachel Rizzo, senior fellow at the Atlantic Council's Europe Center, said. And because of this, Europe had to rethink its relationship with Russia, which prompted Finland to reassess its security strategies. It also became clear that Finland and Sweden are tired of bowing to Russia, and speculation about their NATO membership may be a logical end to a decades-long process and a way for them to ditch long-held policies of military non-alignment. For years, the Western world had viewed Russia as a less imposing figure in international relations, with many hoping for peaceful resolutions to conflicts and disputes. But as we've seen in recent years, this view had been challenged by Russia's increasingly assertive posture on the world stage. From annexing Crimea to meddling in foreign elections, Russia's actions have sparked concern and alarm among many Western nations. How do you think Russia reacted to the decisions of Finland and Sweden? Let's find out. Tensions are running high between Russia and the West following Finland and Sweden's decision to apply for a NATO membership. The Kremlin had issued a stern warning, stating that Russia will be forced to take countermeasures in response to this move. Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu has also weighed in on the issue, expressing concern that Finland's accession to NATO could further escalate the conflict in Ukraine, with Russia already involved in a protracted conflict in the region. The potential for further destabilization is a major cause for concern. Russia has expressed deep concern over Finland's decision to drop its policy of non-alignment, warning that it could have serious consequences for relations between the two nations. In a statement, Russia's foreign ministry called the move a dangerous historical mistake that would undermine Finland's status as a confidence-building presence in the Baltic Sea and Europe as a whole. For years, Finland had been seen as a neutral player in the region, working to promote stability and cooperation between nations. But with its recent decision to apply for NATO membership, many in Russia fear that Finland is abandoning this role and aligning itself with the West. In a statement, Russian officials said that they would be strengthening their military capacity in the west and northwest of the country in response to what they view as an aggressive move by Finland. This decision has sparked concern and alarm among leaders around the world, who fear that Russia's actions could further destabilize an already volatile region. But on the other hand, Ukraine supports Finland's decision, and in Finland, people said that their country's decision to join NATO made them feel more secure. People in St. Petersburg, Russia, which is only about 150 kilometers or 93 miles from the Finnish border, believe that Finland would cause itself problems by joining NATO. A resident of St. Petersburg named Nikolai said, "We used to consider it as a brotherly country of the capitalist world, the closest to us in spirit and in mutually beneficial economic relations. But now we'll consider it as a state that is unfriendly to us." And what about Sweden? Although Sweden and Finland applied to join NATO together last year, Sweden's application has been stalled by NATO members Turkey and Hungary. But why are Turkey and Hungary against Sweden joining NATO? Analysts believe Turkey will not ratify Sweden's application until after the May 14 election, at the earliest. Even then, it is unclear what might cause President Tayyip Erdogan to change his mind. Turkey has dragged its feet on Sweden, claiming that it does not take Ankara's security concerns seriously and has not fulfilled its end of a bargain agreed in Madrid last year that outlined a number of issues Stockholm needed to address. Also, Sweden has criticized Turkey for human rights violations and violations of democratic ideals, which has irritated Ankara's officials. Turkey claims Stockholm shelters members of terrorist organizations, which Sweden denies, and is requesting their extradition as a condition for approving Swedish membership. Also, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has stated in February that he would not accept Sweden's application until Stockholm prohibits Quran burnings, which the Swedish government has far failed to do. However, both Finland and NATO are pushing hard for Sweden to join, and Russia is not happy about this. You might already be wondering, what exactly is the hostile relationship Russia has with NATO? Let's take a journey back in time. In 1991, a historic moment occurred as the North Atlantic Cooperation Council laid the foundation for the relationship between the NATO military alliance and the Russian Federation. And in the year 1994, in a move that surprised many, Russia decided to join the Partnership for Peace program. This decision paved the way for an even more significant development, the signing of the NATO-Russia Founding Act in 1997. The relationship between Russia and NATO has been a complex one, and despite these efforts to establish platforms and forums for Russia and NATO collaboration, their relationship has become strained due to Russia's ongoing threats and antagonism towards numerous neighboring sovereign states. The relationship between Russia and NATO has been a topic of discussion for many years, and tensions between the two sides continue to simmer. One of the key reasons for this is Russia's perception of NATO's eastward expansion as a significant security concern. Russia has long viewed NATO's expansion as a threat to its national security. As NATO has expanded eastward, Russia has become increasingly alarmed, feeling that its security is being compromised. This has created a sense of mistrust between the two sides, with each side viewing the other with suspicion. Since the end of the Cold War, NATO has undergone significant changes, including an expansion in its membership and an increased military presence in Eastern Europe. While these changes were intended to promote stability and security in the region, they have also created friction between Russia and NATO. Russia has viewed NATO's expansion as a direct threat to its national security, feeling that its sphere of influence is being encroached upon. This has led to a sense of unease and mistrust between the two sides, with tensions simmering just below the surface. How does Ukraine stand to benefit from all of these? Finland's decision to join NATO would represent a significant strengthening of the alliance and could potentially weaken Russia's position in the region. This would have significant consequences for the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, as a stronger NATO could provide greater support for Ukraine in its struggle against Russian aggression. It could also lead to a broader shift in the geopolitical landscape of Eastern Europe and the post-Soviet space, with the region gradually moving away from Russia's sphere of influence. Also, the potential for Ukraine to join NATO has been a topic of much discussion and speculation, with the country eager to accelerate the process and join the military-political union without a transition period in the form of the Action Plan on NATO membership. The so-called Special Finnish Way has raised Ukraine's expectations for a faster track towards NATO membership. The ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine has led to a heightened need to strengthen military presence along the new border with NATO. This move, however, could have significant implications for Russia, potentially weakening its military potential on the Ukrainian front and facilitating counter-offensive measures by Ukraine. And what does this mean for Russia? Well, first and foremost, it implies Putin could be finished. This has been his conflict, and it has not only failed, but has accomplished the opposite of what Putin predicted. Russia is now isolated, sanctioned, has united its foes, and is going to be defeated in the field. This may appear to be a positive thing, but there is only one thing worse than a powerful Russia: a weak one. Also, Putin has breached his promise to the people by mobilizing his people to fight in Ukraine, and by attempting to transfer the blame for failure entirely onto his subordinates, he has provided an incentive for elites to work together against him for the first time. And when you take a look at Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky's new confidence, you will see how much Putin's political fortunes have changed. After surviving a Russian decapitation attempt in February, Zelensky is now openly campaigning for Russian regime change. And in response to Putin's demand that Ukraine return to the negotiating table, Zelensky stated, "I will not hold any negotiations with Russia as long as Putin is president of the Russian Federation." He has also stated that he will only negotiate with the new president. There are so many predictions about the end of Putin, and many think it will come sooner than expected. Share your thoughts and join the conversation by leaving a comment below. And if you enjoy the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it, and subscribe so you'll never miss out on the latest content and updates. Thanks for watching.